She is a champion
of women in manufacturing.
She is passionate
about advancing technology and inspiring the next generation.
She is
the one and only Megan Zimba, and she's ready to host the Creators Lounge.
The Creators Lounge is proud to welcome AM Ventures.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Creators Lounge at IMTS 2024. I'm super excited because I am sitting here with Arno Held from AM Ventures. Hello Arno, how are you doing?
Hi Megan, thank you for having me. I'm very well. I'm here at the show, so it's great.
Yeah, so I'm super excited to talk to you because we're going to be talking about venture capitalists, which I'm not highly familiar in, so I'm really excited to learn from you today. But can you give us some sort of background information about yourself? Like, what is your experience? How did you get involved with this?
Sure, no problem. So I always introduce myself as an engineer by education,
okay,
an entrepreneur by passion, and a venture capitalist by accident.
Okay.
Because VC was never part of my plan. I'm a trained field service engineer. My professional career started 26 years ago with Trumpf, where I was trained as a field service engineer. I learned how to build and repair laser machines. Fell for light as a technology, got into 3D printing 17 years ago and realized that no one wants to fund hardware companies 10 years ago, and I decided to fill that gap. That's how it was.
So how did you learn about venture capitalism then? Because I just feel like there's maybe a learning curve there that you kind of have to go through. So what was that process like for you?
There certainly is a very steep learning curve involved. Actually, in the beginning, I learned with good common sense. I met some inspiring founders who showed me how to do business with good ethics and how to run a company also based on trust and good values. And I was lucky enough to be given the opportunity by a family that I worked for to build their family office and to do some first investments with their money, which turned out pretty successful. So that's somehow what led to the foundation of AM Ventures 10 years ago.
Okay, so with mainstream VC venture capitalists, that is driven by hype. And one of the things that you said in our pre-interview is that you like to invest in the boring. So can you take a deeper dive into what exactly that means?
I can, of course. So driven by hype, what I meant with that is that VCs did not invest originally in the tough stuff, in hardware. In really complicated manufacturing technology. The VC scene, at least 10, 15, 20 years ago, they started with everything that was hyped, with digital businesses, online businesses, e-commerce, social media.
Or like more recently, humanoids.
Or more recently, humanoids, AI, or investments in defense. So suddenly, hardware and machine tool technology is becoming a topic for mainstream VCs, but it hasn't been originally. It was not the case 10, 15, 20 years ago. Me and my partner and my team, however, we've always been part of this boring manufacturing industry. We liked to produce goods at a very high volume with extremely high precision. This is what fascinated us, and that was what we wanted to fund and support with our network. So that's the background, actually.
So why is it so important for maybe other venture capitalists to consider investing in the boring? Like, why is that important, especially with manufacturing as it is today? Because there's a lot of challenges that manufacturers face. One of them is workforce development. Some is integrating automation. Why should some of these VC companies start thinking about investing more into the boring stuff?
Well, for two reasons. First of all, because we need it. Society needs it. Our planet needs it. Western countries need it because we do need manufacturing, and we've lost it over the past couple of decades due to a very high amount of globalization. But times are changing. There's global tectonic shifts going on, and now we have to bring manufacturing back into our own countries and our own continents. So it's simply born out of necessity. We need to fund these technologies to bring jobs and manufacturing closer back to us. And then simply also for the reason because you can make money by investing in the boring stuff and not in the hype stuff.
Well, we're going to continue our conversation real quick right after this sponsor break, so please do not go anywhere.
watching The Creators Lounge. Gain insights as our hosts talk to expert guests about key industry topics. Come see the action live on the trade show floor. Visit booth 338 600. See you at The Creators Lounge.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Creators Lounge. We're going to continue our conversation here with Arno Held from AM Ventures. So Arno, one of the things that I want to know is why manufacturing? What is it about this particular sector that is really making you passionate for it and wanting to help invest in the boring stuff? I know that you talked about it, why it's important to invest in the boring, but on a personal level, why do you love this sector so much?
I've asked myself this question many times. I think it all started when I started working with Trumpf, where I fell in love with processing materials with light. Melting metals with light is something that has always fascinated me. And then over time I realized that there were hardly any investors available for such kind of difficult investments, right? It's at that time VCs wanted to fund social media startup or food delivery platforms, and the manufacturing, the boring stuff was left out. But there was a desperate need for money. There were such impressive founders, such impressive technology out there without any capital to grow. And I simply realized that that's maybe a problem that I should try to solve, and started it 10 years ago.
Another thing that you brought up in our previous conversation was sustainability. So how is your work really helping kind of nurture sustainability within manufacturing, and why is that such an important topic for you?
That maybe I need to explain a little bit in what kind of sector I specifically invest, which is the 3D printing side of manufacturing technologies. And the thing that got me hooked on this technology is simply the fact that 3D printing enables you to design goods and products also from the inside. That means you can make parts hollow, reduce weight, reduce material consumption, and you can also ship files around the world and produce them locally instead of sending physical goods around the world. And that idea and the applications that you can realize with these technologies, which are heat exchangers to save energy, electric motors, saving electricity, saving copper material, that made me realize that this whole planet cannot be decarbonized without the help of manufacturing technologies in general, but more specifically additive manufacturing or 3D printing technologies. So the reason why I'm doing this is simply I'm deeply convinced that this planet needs this.
Right.
I have the very deep conviction that our planet is not going to be decarbonized by changing human behavior. We are not going to reduce waste or material consumption or energy consumption just because we think it's necessary. I'm deeply convinced that this planet will only be decarbonized with developing the right technology.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. So then, in your opinion, what makes a great VC? Like, what are the characteristics of a good venture capitalist for people to look into, especially maybe smaller companies or startup companies?
What makes a great VC? I think a great VC can be measured by the level of value that they bring to a startup beyond just the money. Let's say there are investors that consider themselves not annoying money, so they drop the money, go away, and let the founders do their thing without doing anything on top of it. And some founders actually want this. So for some founders and teams, this might be the right approach. I think a great investor does help with more things than just money, applying their network, the connections that they have. For example, we bring co-investors to the table, other parties that deliver strategic value to open markets, open doors.
I think your colleague used a South African term, Ubuntu.
That's correct.
So why don't you explain what that is and how it ties in with a good venture capitalist?
Yeah, so that was actually implemented by Alex, by my colleague from AM Ventures. And he brought this term from a trip to South Africa. It's a term that was actually coined by Desmond Tutu and Nelson Mandela to fight apartheid in South Africa. And it stands for the better I am, the better we are as a team. So it shows a lot of how we identify as team members in AM Ventures, but also how we identify as investors, as a part of a team that runs a whole company. We take responsibility for our acting with the founders by giving them trust, but also our full support and dedication to whatever they want to develop as a vision.
And I think that expands out to what the message here is at IMTS, where to really make manufacturing successful anywhere, it doesn't matter, anywhere in the world, we really need to start coming together as partnerships. So I want to get your insights on that as well as soon as we come back from this next sponsored break.
Everybody in the 313, put your manufacturing hands up and follow me, because we're going to season 3 of Road Tripping with Steve. This is awesome. I've never been in an automotive facility like this. Hello? Hi, this is Road Tripping with Steve.
I need to leave and go let my head cool down. The Robo Drill is seriously one of my favorite machines.
Brand new program, call it whatever you want.
Steve's program.
All right.
Can you take it past 100%? Do it again.
Welcome back, everyone. This is going to be the final segment with this conversation with Arno held from AM Ventures. I can't believe 15 minutes is already flying by. That's crazy. So one of the last comments that I made, because we were talking about Ubuntu, and one of the last comments I made was, collaborating together and creating partnerships is really what's going to help elevate manufacturing. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. That's what's going to help. So how does AM Ventures kind of put that into practice with some of the people you're helping?
Oh, through many different ways, actually. Being a very specific investor that only invests in a small niche, also within manufacturing technologies, we have the big advantage that we bring an ecosystem to the table to startups, that an ecosystem of existing portfolio companies that helps the founders that we are funding as well. So think about our portfolio of 18 companies across the planet that all have something to do in additive manufacturing. They can help founders how to set up a company in Korea, for example, how to negotiate contracts in a completely different jurisdiction, how to deal with hardware development and vendor management within additive manufacturing. We know the suppliers, we know potential board members who bring competences and capacities to the table that no one else can bring. And then last but not least, my fund that I'm managing, we're a 100 million euro venture capital fund, has more than 30 family offices in the background who can also act as a co-investor in future funding rounds, who all have their own operational manufacturing businesses in the background. So even they contribute by being represented on board level, for example, or giving development contracts and purchase orders to startups that they have funded before.
So I want to bring the conversation back to this whole idea of sustainability, and with that in mind and the collaboration that we're talking about, how do you really help companies then become more sustainable? Like, are you giving them any kind of guidance on where they can make certain investments to really hit that sustainability?
Yes, to a certain extent as well. I mean, with every startup that we have funded, we also occupy a board seat. So we are present in the strategic discussions to also decide which applications we are going to realize in the future. And also we help with case studies, for example, communicating the good things that these companies are doing through the right kind of channels that can also be published with, let's say, highly influential journalists, for example. So there we, over the last years, with more than 20 companies funded over 10 years, we've built up a certain amount of experience and best practice approaches to find out which is the best way to communicate the good things that you are doing and which are not so efficient ways.
So one of the things that I really like about you is you're really passionate for investing with conviction and in curiosity.
I am, yes.
So one of my last questions for you, Arno, is, if you had a 15-year-old sitting in front of you, what sort of advice would you give that 15-year-old? Because one of the things that we're having a really hard time as manufacturers is getting younger, like we're getting better, there is progress, but how do we really spark innovation, spark that inspiration, get them inspired to maybe think about engineering and manufacturing and being part of this sector to really help people solve their problems?
That's a good question. I think in my career I was very lucky to having had the right mentors at the right point in time.
Okay.
I always realized that people are not perfect.
Right.
People have their strengths and weaknesses. So what you can do as a young person who is seeking orientation and advice is look for the things that people are doing very well. Ignore their mistakes and their weaknesses. They don't help. You can appreciate them as lessons learned. But I think we can learn from everyone. And we can pick very good mentors with very strong strengths. And that's what I did. I followed the advice of very experienced people, and I think I did pretty well on listening to them.
Yeah.
And in the end, I think what I did in that age is I found something that really interested me, that fascinated me, and I became good at it.
Yeah.
And if you're good at something and if you're fascinated by something, it's very easy to become better and better and better.
Yeah.
And to stick with a certain topic. And I think that probably helps everywhere, not only in manufacturing. If you have something that you're good at and that you really, really like, whether it's sports or friends or any kind of other hobbies or a professional career in technology, if you like it, if it interests you, it's pretty easy to become good.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, because I think sometimes what we try to do is put younger people in a box and make them follow a certain set of rules, and then they grow up and are miserable doing something that they don't find enjoyable or they're passionate about. So I think that's really, really good advice. Follow your intuition, go with your gut, make sure you're doing the things that are happy. Well, Arno, I really appreciate you taking time today and having a conversation. 15 minutes is way too short. I could probably talk to you for another 45 minutes. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for
having me,
Megan.
Any final words that you want to say before I let you go?
No, thanks for having me. I mean, I can congratulate everyone who's been involved with this show here. It's such a fascinating place, so extremely inspiring. And I can encourage everyone to go to the different halls and explore the different vendors and enjoy what's out there.
Awesome. Well, thanks for tuning in. This has been another episode from the Creators Lounge. Stay tuned, because we got a lot more interviews for the rest of the day.